Okay. All right, so the streaming is on. And what we'll do today is let's do something kind of more interesting in the sense that we'll try out some features that the App Inventor did not have, years ago. Because I've been using App Inventor for many years, and some of these features were not available back then. So the one thing I want to try out particularly has to do with voice recognition. So I'm not sure where it is. There we go. Speech Recognizer. So we'll give this a try. Okay, so we'll pull this into here. So the one thing you can do, whenever you want to learn something new in App Inventor, is to click on the question mark next to the item, just so that you can, get a link to exactly where that thing is. So this is the basically the API of that particular feature. So it has got several properties. It has got the result, which is a string because it's the text. It also has a method called getText. So it will ask, so this will prompt the user to speak, convert the speech to text, and then it will signal, which means it will raise the event of after getting text when the result is available. So the events there are two events related to this. One is after getting, which will give you the result of the text. And then the second one is before getting text, and it is signal right before the recognizer is called. Okay. So we'll give it a try. Okay. So we'll play with this. And this is one of those things where it may not work in a simulator because it depends on whether the simulator has the audio also being passed in and out of the simulated machine. So that's why it's really kind of nice to have an actual device for testing this sort of thing. All right, so what we'll do is we are going to put this into our project, and I'm going to take out the canvas. Now, if you take out the canvas, you have to be aware that anything inside the canvas is also going to be taken out. Okay, I'm going to change the battery here. It's only good for about a week or so, because there are many professors using the same mic here, and that's fine because we got rechargeable batteries. Okay. All right, so we're back in business. All right, so when I remove this, which is a canvas, all the sprites go away as well. So you have to kind of keep that in mind. All right, so what we'll do is we are going to, let's see here. I'm going to do something fun. So we are not going to have a button here. Instead, we go to sensors, and we'll see whether we can say, okay, if I shake my phone, it will activate the voice recognizer, okay? So that's what we're going to do here. So for that purpose, we got a few items that may be applicable. One is the accelerometer, and it basically measures the X, Y, and the Z acceleration, which is cool from the scientific perspective, but it's not so cool if you want to just say, okay, if the phone is shaken, tell me and I can start a particular action. So you can do it using the accelerometer sensor, but it's going to be a lot more work than it's worth. And you can also read more details about the accelerometer. It has got the legacy mode, intervals, acceleration changed, it based on X, Y, and Z, and also shaking. Okay, so maybe that is useful for us, okay, because it can actually just detect shaking. Okay, cool. So we'll get one of these. So we got an accelerometer sensor and a speech recognizer here. Now we switch back to the blocks. And the first thing is to go to the accelerometer sensor and say when it is shaken, I am going to do something here. So what we'll do is we go to the speech recognizer and say let's go ahead and get some text, okay? Now, get text is a non-blocking call. What that means is it's not going to return, whatever I have spoken to the cell phone. It's just starting the whole process, and then it comes back right away. Which means if you have additional things you want to do, hey, you can do it after this call, okay? But what it will also do is it will initiate, the icon thing, on the screen, in the middle of the screen, and then tell the user and say, okay, speak to me now, okay? So we are not going to get too fancy here. We'll just, do just this part, and then we'll build the app and see what happens. Because even at this point, I can test whether it is detecting the shaking, and two, whether it starts the speech recognition, okay, even though I'm not doing a single thing with the conversion itself. So this is how I like to write my code, is just do a little bit, test it, go back and test some more. And of course, the name Canvas 1 is really a misnomer now because it has nothing to do with Canvas, right? Okay, so we'll go ahead and go to, okay, we'll install the app first. Android debugging. Okay, there we go. ADB, install -r, and then the app is installed here, Canvas 1. Okay, and then we'll switch to the other window and copy the screen of my cell phone. Okay, all right. And this is called Canvas 1, which is here. And I'm gonna shake my phone. There we go. So I can now start talking. Try again. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's cool. So it will keep doing it until, I don't know when it's going to stop. Oh, okay. So it does work. Cool. So the next thing we need to do is to say, how do we get the text? We saw it on the screen, right? But I need to get it into the system. So we'll go ahead and change the program a little bit. And what we'll do is, I suppose we can use a label. We can use a text box. There are many ways to do this part. I'll just go use a text box. So you go to a text box. Anything that can contain text is going to be fine because I'm just testing it right now. And as usual, okay, we don't use field parent anymore because that doesn't seem to work very well. And we'll just say 100% of the width of the parent, which is the entire screen itself. And then as far as the height is concerned, we will specify maybe 100 pixels, which is about a third of the entire height of the screen. Font size of 14 is fine. I don't think multi-line matters at all, okay, in this case, so we'll just kind of click it anyway. All right, cool. So now we go back to blocks, okay? And then what we do is we go to the speech recognizer, and then we pick up this particular event here called speech recognizer dot after getting text. So after the conversion, this event is going to be raised, and then the result is going to be the actual text that is being converted. So we'll go here, and then its only job to do is to go to the text box and change the text of the text box accordingly. So we just set the text of the text box to result. So if you want to get a parameter into your code, you just have to hover over the parameter itself and then drag the get block and then plug it in. Okay? So this time it will be visual because I can actually see the text box being populated with whatever the speech recognizer has recognized. So to do this in the proper Android SDK, it's going to be another like 3 or 4 classes. What we could do in a few minutes is going to be a few classes. Not in the sense of Java classes, in the actual sense of sitting here, actually investigating what classes we need to use in Java, how to set up the event handlers, blah, 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 blah. This is like super easy, right?
Is it regular Java or JavaScript?
It's regular Java. That is the native language of Android apps. Okay, so let's go ahead and build the app again. So this is the sort of thing that is difficult to test using the other, the connect method. It works much better if you just kind of crank out the APK, install it on an actual device, so you can actually test it, more easily. And if this works, I'll show you some really kind of cool features of text recognition. Some of you may know it already, and some of you may not, but I will nonetheless, show you what you can do with that, because it can be quite useful, especially if your end users know about that. So we'll go back to here and reinstall the app. Okay, and then switch back to the screen. Okay, so shake it. Are you paying attention? Oh, okay. Oops. It just died. Might have something to do with the USB cable. Okay. It's still not here. Nope. There we go. Are you paying attention? There you go. Okay, so now on the really kind of cool feature, okay? So I'm going to test it with Cantonese and see if it recognizes it. I don't think it can recognize Cantonese or any other language that is not the default language by itself, but we'll give it a try. 你明唔明白廣東話? No, okay, it doesn't understand it. What I just said was, do you understand Cantonese? In Cantonese. Which of course is self-defeating.
Are you able to increase the size of the text?
Yeah, we can do that. But let's get out of here first, because I want to show you how to configure it so you can actually make the voice recognition thing to recognize different languages. So this part depends on your specific version of Android. It's all over the place depending on which version you have. So I'm going to guess sounds and vibration first, because that seems to be the most relevant at this point. Okay, notification, do not disturb, charging, nope, it's not one of these. Well, we can always search for voice recognition, voice assistant help, voice label, voice assistant. Okay, maybe it's that. Your device will provide voice feedback. Nope, that is not what I want. Okay, maybe it's speech then. Speech, text to speech. Nope, I want speech to text, the other way around. But this points me to language. Okay, so language and input. That's got to be there. Text to speech. Okay, Samsung text to speech. Nope, that's not it. Maybe it has to do with keyboard. So we'll go to virtual keyboard. Voice typing, there we go. Okay, so when you look at languages, which is on the top, the default language is English. So we'll click that, and then we can click some additional languages here. And you would think Chinese is between C and D, right? Nope. I think it's actually at the very end. Yeah, there we go. So there are several Chinese. There's okay, I can point to it, and this one is mainland China Mandarin. This one is Mandarin but Hong Kong. So I guess I don't know what the difference is. This one is Mandarin Taiwan. And finally, we have Cantonese Hong Kong. So, so even within the Chinese family of languages, there are several variants. The next one is Japanese, which is entirely different. Okay, so we click Save. Now, would that change my default? Let's check it out. Okay, that's great. So now it still establishes the basic or the default language is US English, but it will also recognize Cantonese. And it will do the switch over automatically. I don't need to pre-configure the speech to text to say that what follows is Cantonese. It actually can switch by itself.
Can you go to the last one, English, the last English they had? I was curious what the difference was.
Which one?
Go back to your selection.
Here?
The very last item.
Yeah, there was another English at the very end of the list for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Indonesia and Thailand.
But there's another list of English above, so it's kind of weird.
Well, there's British English, right?
Yeah. Why is so many
There's
English?
Singapore. Oh, but I think it takes accent into consideration. So it has a better recognition
Why
rate.
doesn't it have Southern?
Yeah. That's America.
Should have East Coast English and Southern English.
I know. Yeah, like what Yao means.
I wanted to know when I say hella.
Yeah, what Yao.
Well, if you look at English, it has got all of these variants. So it got US, UK, Tanzania, South Africa.
But it has two more English at the bottom of the list.
Yeah, that is weird. Australian, Canadian, that's generic.
Yeah, right? Like,
Sorry?
The two at the bottom are the cousins we don't want.
We're curious to see what it looks like, the various English.
Oh, well, it's got, a lot of variations. But as you guys said,
Let's do
You
the
know.
last one, just to see. The last English. In which one, Thailand or Indonesia?
well, I don't speak either. So
Okay.
it's not going to help. This is, by the way, this is speech to text.
Right.
So I talk in a particular language, and it would translate that into English. It would translate into the actual characters or words.
Oh.
Okay, so we're gonna save this, and then go back to our app, and give it a try. Now this may be really useful, whatever app you're writing, because it allows people to actually, use speech to text to type in, things from other languages other than English. 你明唔明白廣東話? Nope, still doesn't do it.
Well,
It
it looked
started
like
to
it
switch,
did, yeah.
And then it went back to
English.
It's because your default's still English.
The default is English, but it should recognize
Did write
Cantonese.
something
Okay.
and then switch back.
廣東話. Nope, that's not what I said. I said Cantonese, and it did something differently. Okay, so this is the other way you can do it. Click on the keyboard first, and then force it here to switch to a different language. And I think it's long pressing this thing here. So you can voice input, hold and list of options. Select one to assign as a shortcut. Okay. Okay, so maybe I need to manage my input languages to also include other languages, because it may not even understand, may not have the font.
Oh.
Yeah, so this is the font that I need.
So all phones have this capability?
Yes.
Oh.
So all Android phones, well, I guess, if you have a really, really old version of Android, it may not have the same features. But if you have something that's relatively recent, I mean, this is a S7, which is like 3 generations ago compared to the S10 now. So they're now saying that the S10, they're releasing a particular version of the S10 that's 5G capable. So 5G is going to become reality soon. So that's exciting stuff. All right, so switching back to the app. And, oh, right, shake it. 廣東話. Nope. 廣東話. Nope. It's still not doing it. Nope. Okay. So languages and types, it does recognize that.
And then, just to see. Just try removing English to see if once the English is not an option, would it work?
Reverse the order.
Reverse the order?
Yeah.
Yeah, or just remove the English. You're worried you won't be able to get it back?
Well, I can still manage with, if it doesn't go back.
Yeah, just remove it and see what happens.
Because there are 2 settings, right? One is
right there, it's just a slide, so might as well try it.
okay.
Unselect it. Just unselect English. There you go.
Okay. And the Samsung keyboard. Okay, let's double check this one. So this one still has English listed as a primary language. So it's not, so what we did was not effective here.
Unselecting English should work. Oh,
If I could.
there you go.
Okay.
This is between generic English, I wonder.
That sounds so generic.
There was an option for generic English.
I saw that too, yeah. Okay, so shake. 廣東話. Yep, now we got it.
Now, which one of those things was the actual fix?
你明白廣東話? Okay. Yep, so you can even type in other languages into a text box. Cool. I mean, but this can be very useful because, you can basically, they got Klingon. So you can now translate between languages using Google Translate. So kind of cool. The reason why this might be actually useful is, let's say this is a continuation of my mind defrag application. Okay, so somebody's already frazzled. Okay, pissed off or otherwise not very calm. Okay, and you're saying, okay, please type and describe your feeling, right? And then okay, has anyone tried to type using an on-screen keyboard when you're upset? It's not easy. Because you need fine motor control and you need to think about the words and stuff like that. So it's not easy, okay? And so speech recognition can be very useful because you just kind of scream at your phone and your phone will record what you said, turn it into text, and in this case, turn it into whatever language you want to use. So because if you think about it, okay, so let's just say that I have not been to the United States for like 30 years. Okay, this is like maybe my second year in the United States, and I have never really used or been taught English ever before. Okay, and now I am holding this app here, and it asks me, and when I'm really pissed off already, to write down my feelings in English. What do you think is going to happen? Well, the phone probably became a frisbee. Out the window. So so that's why this can be helpful, for people who do not know how to spell, who do not know the English as a default language, and they have another mother tongue. Okay, so it's actually great for that purpose.
Do they have a language where you want to say something to a teenager
Teen speak, right?
They don't understand what no means.
Oh, that one.
Yeah.
Well, you don't have to explain what no means because when you say no, they're usually asking you for something. Just don't give it to them. Then they will eventually figure out, oh, so that is what no means.
No action. Okay, got it. No means no action.
Yep, yep.
That's good.
Now, Google Translate. So let's see whether App Inventor can do Google Translate as a part of itself. Okay. I don't think I have seen it, but we can see it. We can try it. Google Translate API and App Inventor, an alternative to Yandex. All right, so somebody actually figured out how to do this. And let's see here. This is the part where you really have to understand how to work with APIs. So basically, once you understand APIs, you can use a web component to do this. Because what it's doing is it is really just making a request like this one here, okay? If you look at this request, it's no different from any request that you actually hand type onto the URL bar, okay? But it has one additional parameter, which is the API key, which identifies that this app or whoever is writing this app is authorized to use the API. And once you do this, you can also initialize the language code to whatever you want to use. And then the string that you wanted to translate is a part of the parameters here. So if I just look at this bigger block here, set Google API.url, you can see the target is the target language, whatever you wanted to translate to. And then this is the text to be translated. But it has to be encoded, so all of this stuff is joined and into the URL. So it's not impossible to do. It is a little bit more involved than what we normally do in this class, okay? Because it has to do with the understanding of some basic URL, HTTP request and stuff like that. But on the other hand, it's completely doable only using blocks in App Inventor. And this is the kind of programming that is really, really in demand, these days is API, type of programming, because people want want websites or cloud resources to utilize resources from each other. So you may not be doing something that is completely based on language, okay? So the translation part to you is really just a tool. So understanding the API to get to Google Translate enables whatever app or whatever website you are using to be able to interact with people who do not speak English as a default language or do not speak English at all, because you can translate both ways. Is that okay? Is that kind of making sense? Okay. So, shall we make the app a little bit more fun? Because now we get the speech to text. So we're going to use text to speech so that it can kind of regurgitate back to me what I said. But then somebody's going to say, you could have just recorded the whole thing instead of converting to text and then convert text back to speech. Well, there are two reasons why you want to do it this way. Okay, if you store media, it takes up a lot of space, a lot more space. Okay, so that's one reason. Two, if you want to use any cloud resource to store those entries, then you need to find a place where you can get the capacity to store all the audio clips or video clips or whatever. Now, I'm not downplaying the importance of video clip. Okay, so let's say you want to do a kind of emotion diary, okay, throughout the day. The best way to do it is actually a selfie video, because then you can capture what you're talking. And it's language independent because you can speak in your own personal individual language if you want to, that nobody else will understand, because in the end it's only you who's going to watch it, right? But it also captures your face, okay? And that conveys a lot of how you were feeling at the time. People do not, I think people do. I do not usually understand and underestimate the power of non-verbal communication, like facial expressions, especially the eyebrows, okay, muscles on the cheek and stuff like that. So if you take a video of yourself, when you're really pissed off, and you watch it later when you're calm, you might actually be surprised of how pissed off you were at the time. You may not think that you were that pissed off, but when you look at a video of yourself, you go like, wow, I didn't know I was that pissed off. Or sad or depressed, or shocked, whatever the emotion is. So that may be helpful, but what we're doing here is exactly the opposite, because I'm just trying to save storage, right? I want to make sure that I don't chew up a lot of storage space. Okay, so let's see here. We got shaking already, being used to start the process, okay? And it will put whatever it has listened to into the text box. I need another mechanism to kind of replay that. I know I can use a button, but that's kind of like boring. So let's see what other ways we can use to kind of get the result back. So we can go to sensors again, okay? Because most of the stuff that your phone can do that is not text or touch based, is in sensors. So we got orientation sensor, okay? We can turn it sideways, okay? We can have a proximity sensor. The proximity sensor is kind of interesting, but this is device dependent. So some devices have it and some devices may not have it. Okay, so the description is it's a non-visible component that can measure the proximity of an object in centimeters relative to the view screen of a device. So what the use of that device is to see whether you have your phone next to your ear or not. Okay, that's the main purpose of this particular sensor. It lets you determine how far away an object is from a device, and some devices return the absolute distance in centimeters, and some only return in near and far values. Okay, seems kind of cool. I mean, just to know what the device can do can be quite entertaining. So we'll put one of these into our app here, and then we go to blocks and see what it can do. So we go to proximity sensor, and it has got one event handler, which is proximity changed. It will report back the distance. Okay, that sounds kind of interesting. So we'll drag one of these out, and then say, we also need another thing to complete the app here. So we go back to designer, and then we go back to media, and we want to use a text-to-speech object too, or component, because that's the idea. We want to convert whatever is in the text box back to speech using the text-to-speech ability of the phone. Okay. So we're going to ignore distance for now, and then we just say text-to-speech. And this one has its own events. So after speaking and before speaking, you have a chance to insert something. And if you hover over one of them, it will tell you how to use it too. So event to raise after the message is spoken. Well, I'm not interested in that, because all I want is for it to speak, and the message is whatever I have in text box 1.
What would the result for that?
Huh?
What would the result be for that?
I would suspect the result is the text itself. But to be sure, we'll go back to the documentation and check it out. So here we got the properties, available languages, language sets the language for text-to-speech. This changes the way that words are pronounced, not the actual language it is spoken. For example, selecting the language to French, speaking English text will sound like someone speaking English with a French accent. Okay, so the event after speaking only has a Boolean. Event to raise after the message is spoken, and is a Boolean. It doesn't explain what it is though. Result is speech rate. You can make it go fast or slow. You can control the pitch, which is a different thing. So pitch controls the frequency, like you make it low, make it really, really low. But the speed has to do with how fast is it speaking. Okay, what is the time delay between words? Country code is for speech generation. This can affect the pronunciation. And then we have available countries, available languages, which is a list. Check the Android developer documentation under supported languages to find the meaning of these abbreviations. So I think, in this case, US, ENUS is for United States, English, and so on. So each country or each language has its own code for that. All right. So getting back to the app here. Getting back to the blogs. We're almost done. We just need to go get the text from text box 1. Text box 1 text down here. And plug it in. Okay. So we got our app done. Now I didn't do any settings for the language and stuff like that, so we'll check out, whether that works or not. And of course, we can look up on the side, Android language code list. There we go. All right. That may not be. Okay, I'm gonna upload the app first. Okay, switch back to the app. They có唔講到廣東話? Oh. Yep, the screen died. Okay. 你講唔講到廣東話? Okay. So now I need to change the distance. So I can probably just emulate it. Oh, it just died again. I don't know whether it's the cable or not. There's no complaint on this side. That is strange. Okay. Nope, it just died again. All right, so let me see if there's a message here. Oh, okay. So there's a server error. It could not connect to the server to add the content. So it wants to download the Cantonese text-to-speech thing. Okay, so I can preload that too. So I can go to, okay, let me go back. Failed to get feature. Uh-oh. Oh yeah, this time it's definitely the cable being loose. Okay. So we need to go back to here, and this time we go to language. Uh-oh, it changes all the languages to Cantonese. Okay, so we're gonna add this. Okay. And that's now added. Okay, text-to-speech. And it doesn't matter which one I'm using. I guess I have to install voice data. Interesting. Okay, so we can get male or female?
Huh?
Male or female? Female, okay.
Actually, I changed all mine to males.
What?
And British.
But why would it make a difference if it's male or female?
Well, it's just a voice. Is it going to use a male voice or a female voice?
Which one do you trust more?
My mama.
That's why I get all my directions from the male British guy. Turn left. Up the next straight.
Don't they have that commercial where they're all the bad guys?
I don't know. That sounds funny though. I haven't seen that.
All right. It's downloading.
He was like a jaguar.
Okay, so it's downloaded now and hopefully installed.
From a few years ago,
Yeah.
it was like a Super Bowl ad.
I
Originally.
think so. Like,
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Okay. So shake it. Đây mình bảo con thông báo. Nope. It's back to English now. Okay, fine. Do you understand English?
Do you understand English?
Yeah. So I can now change the proximity.
Do you understand English?
There we go.
Do you understand
Yeah, I was
English?
gonna say, what if you just run your hand over it?
Do you understand English?
So how much battery is it using right now?
Not a whole lot. I mean, I'm plugged in, so it's
I'm just picturing like for D&D, right, or whatever. You know, like every time I don't know you get attacked or a round changes. You know, you just can go like run your hand over it instead of going like
Yeah.
hitting a button to push. You know, like simple
Mhm.
things like that.
However, with that, could you ignore the first? Because it seems she starts speaking. And
Yeah.
She speaks again. Could
because there are two events, right? Because one starts and
Do
then
you understand English?
Is there a way to
Yes.
solve that first?
Yep. Okay, so that's a very good observation. So the observation was, it seems to be repeating the same thing, like
Do you understand English?
yep.
You know what I hate? I'm just gonna tell you.
Do you understand
like watching
English?
TV shows or movies, like your phone goes dark when you put it up to your cheek, right?
Mhm.
You can't get that right on TV. Like they hold the phone up to their face and there's like an image of like a phone call.
I think that's intentional. As intentional as timed bombs, always tick and have flashing lights. It's like beep, beep,
There's no
beep.
reason for it.
Exactly. Who would put a display and a sound effect thing on the time bomb?
More people have phones and know how phones work than time bombs. So that one, I can't give you that. Right? Most of us haven't built a time bomb, but we all own multiple phones. So we all know how they work. The screen should go dark. There's no reason that when they're on TV, I see a little glimmer of the red end button here. There's just no reason for it.
But
It
it
gives me
could also
nothing.
be subliminal messaging. So like, if you see the red button, that might mean, oh, we want to end this call. But if you see a green button, it might, oh, we want to keep going with this.
I personally think it should
It could be like subliminal.
I'll give you another one that makes absolutely no sense. Okay, so if you look at any spacesuit, in movies, the face is always lit by LEDs that are pointing to the face, right? I mean, if you just think about it, okay,
Yeah, once again, we don't all have spacesuits, though. You're not getting my point. There's a lot of things like that in movies. I get it, and I let them.
it's like this, right? In movies, and in your face, and you're in outer space where everything was dim to begin with, and all you can now see is your light on your own helmet, blinding you, so you'll be running into things all day long.
Yeah, no, I mean I get it, but
It is pretty good.
Yeah, I'm jealous. One thing I'm jealous of over iPhone is Siri still sucks.
It does. It's like I'll be driving or something, trying to send a message.
Yeah.
But through voice.
Yeah.
So I'm not texting, but like it's through voice.
Mm-hmm.
I'll get it completely wrong, and I won't correct read it,
It's-
like pre-read it when I'm driving. I'll send it, and it's totally.
And I have the watch I use all the time, and
Yeah.
it's so embarrassing with my wife around. I'm like, I got this. Hey, send, just put this on the message, and then you'll get like, what did you say? What? Can I help you now? Like, it just says some dumb shit, and I'm like, God, you suck.
But the thing with the watch, it just sends it right after. Like it doesn't even let you proofread it.
No, you can. That's a setting.
Really? Mine just sends it.
No. You can. There's a setting for moving that. I mean, like, but it's weird. If you use the voice on the keypad, it works a lot better than Siri does.
Yeah.
I understand. But Alexa works great, and so does Google. Hello, Google. I don't know why they can't get. I thought I was talking, and that's the other annoying thing. God, it's so frustrating.
Aren't they always the same people?
All right. So,
One's Google, one's Apple.
yep.
Okay, got it.
They're competitors, though. So what we want to do is to say, okay, we look at proximity changed, but unless something, the previous speech is done already, do not start another one. Okay, so that's basically the bottom line is one already in progress? If so, do not start another one. So that tells me that we need a conditional block around this thing here to basically say, do not use this block unless it's already done. Okay, so we go to control and we pull a conditional block, which is a if then, and then we stash it here and then put this block inside. So now the question is, what do we use here as a condition? Now I have thought of several ways of doing this already, but the first thing I need to do is to go to text-to-speech and see what it can offer me. So I can go to text-to-speech. It has got available countries, which is a list, available languages, which is a list, country, okay. None of these is what I want. Maybe this, okay. So if I hover over result, I think this one says whether it's done or not, okay. So I can, now let's see if this plugs in, because if it plugs in, it means it is a Boolean and it works. If it's not, then it won't plug in. It does plug in. So what I need to do is to negate it, so that if it is not done, then let's see here. Let me just kind of go back to here. Just want to double check. So result, there's no explanation of result. Okay, so since we have no explanation of result except that it is Boolean, well, it can only do one of two things. So we can just try that. We can test it out. I believe result is true when it's done, which means then we can start another speech. Okay, that's my thinking. So we'll give it a try. Okay. And the technique of doing this type of test to see how something works is going to be useful, because a lot of times, the API documentation or any documentation of any programming language may not be complete. In other words, it may not explain enough whether you should do it this way or another way. So you kind of have to experiment a little bit with it. The reason why documentation is not well done is because things are changing too fast. So by the time you publish a book, like in print, it's pretty much obsolete already, because a lot of things are happening between the time when the book was written and how long it takes to get to the bookshelf. So that's why, I typically do not use books anymore. I just use online resources. And to become a successful developer these days, being able to learn something by yourself is much more important than taking classes. I keep telling my students, the one thing I really need to teach them is how to learn things by themselves. So that way I work myself out of my job. And that would actually be my ideal is, if all my students can learn how to learn by themselves, I would consider myself successful.
Not only that, if you work for any company, a lot of them expect you to learn by yourself because nobody holds their hand.
Well, it depends on your boss. Some bosses are more micromanagers, so they want to tell you exactly how they want you to do something. But with high tech, yes, most companies now want people to be able to do it by themselves. Okay. Max Headroom. I don't know why it does it. Max Headroom. Max Headroom. Okay, so this is good. This is going to be. Okay, so that means that condition is false all the time, and that's why can't even get started the first time. Okay. All right. So that means, I can't use result. No, it's actually true or false. So it means it's false the whole time until it has something to do the first time, and then it turns true when it is done. That's my suspicion, but it's not going to be helpful for doing what we wanted to do. So we'll toss it into the trash can. So instead of doing this, I'm going to use a global variable and do it myself. So I changed the name of the global variable to speech in progress. And it's going to be false to begin with. Okay. So now I can use a negation of that in this block here. If not, speech in progress, do the following. Okay. But as soon as I do this, I have to turn it to true. So I need to go to variables, use a set block here, and say, okay, we are now having a speech in progress. So we click that and turn it to true. So now when it is all done, I need to turn it back into false, because otherwise I can't start the next one. So I need to go to text-to-speech, go to when text-to-speech after speaking, and then we turn it to false over here. Here we go. All right. Yep.
Text-to-speech, after you're done speaking, set your variable speech in progress to false.
Mm-hmm.
If not, that not thing always throws me
So
off.
if not false. So if not false is true.
Why can't you write it's true? I guess because it doesn't have.
You can have your variable named speech not in progress, and then just invert all of those conditions. So it's just a matter of how do you want to call your variable. What are you tracking? Are you tracking whether it is in progress, or are you tracking it is available and not in progress? So it's just a polarity thing. Okay, so let's give it a try. Mm-hmm.
If it's not false, so true.
Then we
True.
set it to true because we are about to start it.
And not doesn't change whether it's true or false.
But you just said the not false is true, right? So it's already true.
Well, it doesn't change
The value.
So the global variable is still false. It's just saying, okay, if it's false, then it needs to be true just for this if.
The not is an operator. It doesn't change the actual value of the variable.
But it wouldn't apply if it's not set to true. Right? The if statement would fire unless that's true.
Yeah, so that's why you have the not there to make it.
Okay, so let's think a bit about it from the beginning of the entire app, right? So the speech in progress is false, initialized to false, because we haven't really done anything, right?
Yeah.
So the first time I trigger proximity changed, we wanted to get started, right? So we look at speech in progress, it is false. Not false is true, so we can go to the then portion of this block.
Not false is true.
Not false is true.
No, it is false. You just said it's false, so it's not true.
So the variable is false.
Yeah.
When you apply the negation operator on the global variable, then it returns a value of true. The variable is still false, but the result of the negation is
But
true.
You're just saying, weren't you asking if it's not false? Or are you asking if it's not true?
We are,
Because if you're asking if it's not true, then the answer is true. If you're asking if it's not false, then it's false. Right?
when this condition is true, we proceed to do the then portion.
So you're not really asking if the global variable is true or false.
You're evaluating a condition. The condition that we are evaluating is not speech in progress. And if that condition is true, then we proceed to do this block here.
And it's true because it's false.
The expression is true because the variable is false. Right. Then we set it to true because we're about to start the process. So next time, if I keep putting my hand flickering over the proximity sensor, then it won't give me that effect anymore, because when it comes back in before the speech is done, then speech in progress is true, not true is false, so it skips the entire block, so I won't have that max headroom effect. For those of you who don't understand, the max headroom effect is, in the max headroom show, when Max Headroom, which is a character in the show, talks, he flickers a lot, so he would kind of like do that repetition of the beginning of a sentence a lot. So let's give it a try. I think this will fix the problem.
When Skype for Business set out to create an incredible quality call over the internet, they built with bandwidth. When Rover needed a scalable way to connect pet owners and dog sitters, they built with bandwidth. When Arlo wanted to help users reach local 911 from home or away, they built with bandwidth. Can you spot the trend? Big brands build innovative.
Okay, reinstall the app. Okay. Max Headroom.
Max Headroom.
Okay.
Max Headroom. Max
So-
Headroom. Max Headroom.
So it doesn't give me the actual max headroom effect anymore. So now onto the actual max headroom effect. Where's my YouTube? There we go. I have to point my speaker back to the physical speaker.
This has volume.
Hmm?
The projector does have a speaker. You just have to turn it up. Like I've seen people use it if you.
Well, it's already maxed out. But there are there are many HDMI output. Well, the reason is because it has got an internal HDMI port here, and it has, I have no idea why. Now, this one is supposed to be plugged in. So now we go back to playback. And switch this thing to, it's not using that.
You've got the silent, I can see the microphone on the side there. It's got the
The
apps
X's.
on the very right of the screen there.
Which screen?
The
This one? It's not muted. So right now it is not muted. Come on. It's not muted. So the projector should be actually having the voice output. I don't think it's hooked up, right?
You need to put it on next.
Okay, so that part is not it. Let's see. Analog stereo input, stereo output. Yep, okay. So we go back to output devices. Yep, speakers. And usually this should allow me to select,
Set to mute. On the right, there's a little symbol next to the lock.
this one?
Yeah.
No, now it's muted. That is odd.
Put it on your computer speakers. Just change the output.
Yeah, that's what I just did.
I thought you were saying exactly.
What I want to know is, why are the only funny lines on this show the ones behind me?
Funny lines behind him.
It's gonna be really nasty. Only the other day I heard someone say, he's nothing but a what? Oh, this mumbling
Yeah, so I could have done that without that change. But with that change, it doesn't do that anymore because it will complete one output before it can start the next one.
Max Headroom.
Yep, instead of max headroom.
Headroom.
I should probably make a little button, a checkbox, and say, ask, do you want to enable the max headroom effect? But you can combine these effects, right? I mean, so you can actually use the proximity sensor as one, and then use a canvas to track your drag motion, so you can be a DJ using your cell phone, right? So you can just go, use one hand, to turn that table thing, and then use the other hand to, control other things. All right, well, we're running out of time for today, but I hope these extra things will kind of help inspire you to incorporate more features into your app. Because they're kind of useful, actually practical, for certain types of app, and two, they're really just kind of fun. I mean, and it doesn't take you a lot of coding to get it, included in your app. All right, so I'm gonna stop the recording, and then we head out to the lab.